So here's the camera face-off for the iPhone XS, the Huawei Mate 20 Pro, the Google Pixel 3 XL, and the Samsung Note 9. So here's a disclaimer. For all the pictures that you're going to see in this video, they are all not post-edited. All the beauty mode has also been disabled and is straight off the camera. That's as natural as it gets. So although we are testing out the iPhone XS, but it's actually equivalent to the iPhone XS Max. So you can use this as a reference as well. Likewise for the Google Pixel 3 XL, it's also the same for the Google Pixel 3. So this is a very common problem that we get taking a picture inside a shaded area. So when looking at these 4 pictures, the results are very different for each camera. HDR, high dynamic range, actually determines the amount of details that we can be seen within the foreground and the background, and how even is the exposure for the foreground and the background as well. My least favorite from these 4 pictures is actually from the Note 9. That's because the foreground subject, which is me, is underexposed, so you hardly can see my face lah. The iPhone XS and the Pixel 3 XL actually did quite a good job, because the picture actually turns out to be more natural. But my vote will still go for the iPhone. That's because the Pixel the picture is a bit too contrasty. So in the shadow areas, a lot of details are missing. But the Mate 20 Pro is actually leading close behind, even though the picture is a little bit washed out. The reason being, the picture of me is actually quite evenly exposed. That tone actually is quite flattering in that sense. So I do not really need to do any editing before posting up onto social media. And even though some of the details are lost on the Mate 20 Pro, well, it's fine with me because some details are better not to be seen. You know what I mean, huh? For the selfie mode, we test out the HDR as well. You can easily identify that the Mate 20 Pro actually has the best dynamic range of all these 4 pictures. But one thing to note, the Pixel 3 XL actually has a wide-angle selfie mode. So when I activate that, the high dynamic range of that picture actually changes. Quite good as well, but it's just that the subject, which is myself again, it's a little bit too dark for my liking. But I like the wide angle effect for the selfie mode. So when you zoom in to see the face details, the Mate 20 Pro actually has a soft focus effect, so some may like it, some may not. I would say that most of the time we will not be zooming in to see the details. So as long as on the normal scale, it looks fine, I think that's actually quite good. So I think for this category, I think Mate 20 Pro actually has a more consistent results than the other 3 cameras. But if you like to go for the natural feel, I think the iPhone did a good job as well. But it's just that when it comes to selfie mode, the dynamic range is still not as good. So now for testing of the portrait mode, so I actually got our good friend Catherine to post for us. And here you'll be able to see that the results is actually quite even for all 4 pictures. Each of them did quite a good job in this category. So it's basically a little bit of nitpicking here and there to find which one is actually doing a better job. So the Mate 20 Pro actually allows you to take a portrait shot using the normal camera mode without zooming in at 2 times like the other 3. So that is actually one plus point. There's a flexibility here because the Mate 20 Pro also allows you to do portrait mode at 3 times optical zoom. But it's just that when you do the 3 times optical zoom, you would probably have to step back a bit more to take a better shot. So looking close up at the hair, the iPhone XS actually did a better job in the sense that the transition between the bokeh and the hair that is clear, it's actually more smooth compared to the other 3. It looks more natural in that sense. And for me here, the winner actually seems to be the iPhone XS and the Pixel 3 XL. That's because I like the skin tone of Catherine on these 2 pictures, and as well as the background is actually evenly exposed to be able to see the details of the buildings. But the iPhone XS does do a better job at the transition for the hair. So for taking a portrait shot with an ambient lighting, it seems like the iPhone did a better job this time again. For this test, you can see that in the shopping mall, the background is actually quite messy. So in order to have a very nice cropped out, it's actually tougher for the processor to do a good job. So the iPhone XS actually did a much better job than the other 3 cameras. And at the same time, I also prefer a more natural bokeh look of the iPhone XS compared to the other 3, which is a little bit too much blur, making it a little bit fake. But they are still very good pictures. It's just that, you know, it's all about nitpicking now. All of them did a great job. So now we actually head out to take a Skyline portrait shot. So this one, I did not turn on the portrait mode on any of the cameras. That's because if you're taking this kind of shot, most of the time you would want to see the beautiful skyline behind you. Right here, the Mate 20 Pro actually did a better job. That's because the night mode on the Mate 20 Pro has been activated, and it's actually be able to take a more crisp and sharp picture compared to the other 3 cameras. And looking at the details of the background, you can see clearly that the HSBC logo on the building is so much sharper and clearer on the Mate 20 Pro. And here's one thing to note, the Mate 20 Pro now actually has a few camera features that are very useful when it comes to this type of scenarios. Let me show you some of these features. So now with ultra wide angle, you can actually compose a wider shot, so now you can see more at a shorter distance. And then in portrait mode, they actually gives you a variety of bouquet, so you can choose the right bouquet for the best results. And I think a lot of people will actually like the heart-shaped bouquet. You know, it's so cute, right? Having like so many heart shapes behind you. Quite fun to play around with that. So now we test out the night selfie mode, which I actually turn on the flash for all the 4 cameras. So my favorite actually has to be the Pixel 3 XL again. That's because the front-facing camera actually has the wide angle view, so very different from the other 3 pictures. So that's a win for me. But when zooming in, it seems that there's a little bit of flaw on my cap where the Pixel 3 XL did not manage to segregate my cap from the bouquet. So the S is actually blurred. But overall, I will still choose the Pixel 3 XL. So now trying out the night shot. At first glance, you would think that the iPhone XS is actually the less striking one out of the other 3, because the other 3 seems to be brighter and more vibrant. But in actual fact, when you do a close-up, the iPhone XS actually maintains quite a fair bit of details, and the image is actually sharper on the iPhone XS. So for the night shots for iPhone XS, it seems like it has quite a fair bit of improvement. But if we are not talking about editing, the Note 9 is actually doing quite a good job, which is quite balanced in the sense that the sharpness is there, and at the same time it's also quite vibrant and bright. For this kind of shot, the Mate 20 Pro again has that wide angle feature. Just by using a wide angle camera to take a picture, the picture seems to be a little bit dull. But after I switch on the night mode, it's pretty amazing too. Because the composition just changed so drastically and the picture becomes so dramatic when you use an ultra wide angle. Now I actually hope that the next batch of smartphones all comes with ultra wide angle lens. Then that will be a game changer for everybody. All you need is one camera phone for all your travel shots. So taking pictures with neon lightings is actually pretty tricky because they are always so bright, and it's most of the time it will be overexposed. So here you can see that the iPhone actually did a good job at evenly expose the background and the foreground, and the shot turned out quite amazing. So Apple really did a big improvement for the iPhone XS. But then again, the Mate 20 Pro has the night mode, so I tried turning it on, and the result is so detailed. The result is so much better than the first shot. This is something for you to consider as well. And I also did try the wide angle with the night mode. There's really a lot of options for the Mate 20 Pro, since Huawei like to throw in so many camera features onto one smartphone. Good job, Huawei! So here we are testing out the macro or close-up shots that each camera can take. But because the Pixel 3 XL does not have a zoom-in camera, so the picture that you see here for Pixel 3 XL is actually 2x digital zoom. The iPhone XS and the Note 9 is using 2x optical zoom, and the Mate 20 Pro is using 3x optical zoom. All of them actually did fairly well, but it's just that the Mate 20 Pro is actually more closed up than the rest. And at the same time, Mate 20 Pro also has this super macro mode where it's using the ultra wide angle, which can take a close-up shot with a minimum distance of like 2.5 cm. So the composition is very much different from the rest. That's because it's ultra wide angle in a close-up mode. So that's another angle that you can play around with. And when you look at the close-up, the details and sharpness on the Mate 20 Pro is actually pretty amazing. So now looking at the tele and landscape shots, the iPhone actually did a pretty good job, but it's just that the skyline is a little bit saturated, which looks unnatural. The Note 9 is actually a little bit washed out, but it's still a good shot. Pixel 3 XL actually has a little bit too much contrast, and you can see that a lot of details are lost at the shadow areas of the picture. The Mate 20 Pro seems to have the best balance in exposure, and again, with the Mate 20 Pro, you can actually use the ultra wide angle to capture more and make a more dramatic composition at the same distance. So for optical zoom, the Mate 20 Pro is actually 3 times optical zoom. The iPhone XS and Note 9 is actually at 2 times optical zoom, and the Pixel 3 XL is actually using digital zoom. So looking close up, definitely the Mate 20 Pro has a sharper and more detailed picture compared to the other 3. That's because it has the advantage of 3 times optical zoom. But here's the thing, when we zoom in to 5 times digital zoom, Samsung actually is on par with Mate 20 Pro in terms of details and sharpness. And likewise for the 10 times digital zoom. Samsung actually did a good job for the digital zoom. And they didn't even try to upsell this digital zoom feature compared to the other 3 brands. I am impressed, Samsung. So hope that you like our quick review. Quite difficult to make a choice between these 4 camera phones. Well, it really depends on your personal preference. What I've given to you is like the detailed inspection, and then you see what actually suits your taste. And each of them actually have their own unique features as well, other than a camera phone. It's actually a neck-to-neck competition between all 4 of them. Okay, so overall, for an all-rounder, I feel that the Mate 20 Pro actually did quite a good job. And I feel that with the ultra-wide angle lens, I think it's very suitable for you to bring this camera phone for all your travels, if you are too lazy to bring any DSLR with you. So if you like our review, please remember to subscribe to us, like and share this video, and maybe leave us a comment down below to tell us what are the things that you like, or maybe you want to find out more about these 4 camera phones. See ya!